Hello, everyone. I think we are now welcome. We've now got everyone through security. Welcome to everyone in the room. Welcome to everyone online. My name is Montgomery. I'm the president of Alumni Europae. We've organized this event. So just a little bit about us. We are the alumni organization for the European schools. That's all types of European schools. And also for the current students who are coming to the end of their baccalaureate as well. So it's a pleasure to have you all with us. A little bit about the organization. We started in 2011, so 13 years ago. And we're about just under 7,000 members worldwide. So it's good to have current members and future members with us. We're doing things a little bit differently. We're in a bit of a transition phase at the moment. So we're a new board. We are looking to decentralize things a little bit. We're looking to have more contact with our members, find new ways that we can kind of weave value into the fabric of Europe, and also connect more with our members abroad. We've got members across all the different continents, local chapters in Brussels and a lot of other European cities, as well as across the US, Australia, etc. So this is one of those many events. We have a working group who've been working hard on this. And we also have Ioannis, who is here. He's our VP of External Affairs. And I'm going to hand over to him so that he can tell you a little bit more about it. But welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our delegates as well. I look forward to a good debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Welcome. Bienvenue. Good avond to everybody. It's Belgium, a multilingual environment. A couple of words. Ben went over the association. It's very nice to have young people in this room. This is why we do this event. Myself, I'm an alumni. My name is Ioannis Notoglou, like Ben said. I graduated in '93 from UCL, Brussels 1. Now my kids are going to the European school in Excel, Brussels 3. There you go, Carlo. And this is a continuous success story we have as Europeans living abroad. Myself being Greek, being to a Belgian, having kids being born in Greece or Belgium and being raised in Belgium in a multicultural environment. We realize that an alumni association is not anymore about networking simply. There are platforms that can do that better than us, but we are more a continuous drive to become better European citizens. And this is what we want to pass over, our education that we had with all of us, amongst us. We want to continue developing that with the current students, and this is why we decided to vertically, in a sense, integrate with the schools, with the stakeholders of everybody who is involved with the European schools. Let it be the Office of Secretary General of the European schools, or the a.p.l, the parents' associations, or the school associations, and we're glad to have here the COSUP representative as well. Ivan is here. Thank you for coming, Ivan. The COSEA representative, which is the Type 2 schools, could not come, unfortunately, today, but I'm sure he's listening to us over the stream. And this is why we want to bring this together, the young people, to ask questions to the politicians, why the European elections stuff. With that in mind, I will be more than happy to discuss also after the event with each one of you separately or together any questions you might have, how the association is planning to integrate even further with the external affairs, the stakeholders. I will pass now the floor to my good friend, an ex-president and also a founder of the Alumni Association, Tom Verhulst. Thank you.
Thank you. This event aims to facilitate an open and constructive dialogue on key issues surrounding the European elections. By bringing together alumni, esteemed guests such as MEPs and candidates, we aim to foster a deeper understanding of the political landscape and encourage active participation in the democratic process. As an association related to education, we have tuned this event to that effect, focusing on the future of young Europeans. Given the recent changes in voting age, allowing 16 and 17-year-olds in several countries, including Belgium, to participate in elections, it is a pivotal time for young citizens to engage more actively in the democratic process. As former students of the European schools, we believe it is essential to include the voices of the younger population, as future policymakers, leaders, and citizens of Europe, but also, as is sometimes forgotten, current ones too. We welcome COSUP members today who will be given a primary role in tonight's debate, asking questions to our panelists directly. Our panelists here today represent different cultures and ideals, members of the European Parliament and hopefully future members of Parliament, representing each one group at the European Parliament. Tonight, we have members representing 3 different countries with many more nationalities represented. Only one group did not respond positively to our invitation, but it was of utmost importance to us to have each group represented here today for matters of fairness and equality. We thank the candidates present tonight that have responded favourably to our invitation. Thank you to all of your collaborators too who participated in making your presence at this event a reality. With all these different cultures and ideals comes sometimes a certain collision of principles. This is why we are happy to have Helmut von Glasenapp, Secretary General of the European Long-Term Investors Association, as a moderator of today's event, to facilitate an open and constructive dialogue between candidates of different opinions. Thank you, Helmut, for agreeing to provide your spare time in such an event. A particular thank you to Alexander Zamet, your collaborator and originating member of AE, for aiding with this too. Marcel de Combes, head of European School, Luxembourg, between 1953 and 1960, describes ES students as follows: educated side by side, untroubled from infancy by divisive prejudices, acquainted with all that is great and good in different cultures. It will be borne in upon them as they mature that they belong together. Without ceasing to look to their own lands with love and pride, they will become, in mind, Europeans. We are also honoured to have here tonight Mr. Manuel Bordoy, Deputy Secretary General of the European Schools, representing the European school system as a whole. We would like to welcome him to talk more about the European schools, after which we will play a short video and we will give our hand to Helmut to move straight to the meat of tonight's subject, democracy at hand. Please welcome Manuel Bordoy.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. First of all, I would like to give you a cordial welcome from the Secretary General, who would have loved to be here, but he couldn't make it because he's on a mission. But the European schools is something that it's really very much accustomed, is a system that's very much accustomed to political debate. I don't know if you are aware, but those of you that have been in a European school, we have very interesting activities, like we have the Model European Council, we have the Model European Parliament, we have different activities on political debate. The words that are in the foundation stones of every school that you just read embody definitely the character of European schools, where diversity is treasured. This has been long debated recently in the European Parliament. I don't know if you are aware that the European Parliament, the Cult Committee, issued a report on the European schools, and they really acknowledge the worth of our education system. But still, they told us, you need to go further. Like this sort of a value-driven education where we charge the curriculum with the different values that Europe needs in our context should be expanded, and we should become a sort of a beacon of European citizenship. And European citizenship is understood as in the words that you have heard. It's looking at each other, recognizing who we are, recognizing that we are closer to each other than we think, and at the same time being proud of our own national identity, because by adding all these national identities, you get to something bigger, which is Europe. And Europe, I mean, like, is necessary for a prosperous future, not only for us Europeans, but for the rest. And we need to bring our values even further on. The European schools are very little. We are only 13 schools. But the European Parliament already some years ago, they said this model, you have to export it, you have to make it grow. And then we started having in different member states what is called accredited European schools. And many countries now are setting up more and more accredited European schools. Every year we have schools opening in every corner of Europe. And even more, now we are talking of the European education space, and the European Commission is looking at policies, how to improve education, because education is the key to give everybody a chance for a better life and a chance to improve a society. How can we, as European schools, help the national systems, help everybody, like, to progress in the same way that we have been progressing? And this is what the report of the European Parliament was saying. Think about that and think how you can do it. And now we are in a deep discussion in our system with all stakeholders. This discussion has been triggered by this report of the European Parliament, so we are very happy that the European Parliament has put us in the spotlight. And for the time being, this will be the reflection that we need to do, and I hope that in the next elections we have European Europarlamentaries that have the same idea of thinking that education is key and that education must be charged with values. We have to be critical thinkers, and we have to be entrepreneurs, and we have to do as much as we can, not only for the European schools, but also for all the national systems, for the European education area. And of course, I mean, like, the European schools are committed to help in as much as we can. Thank you.
Moi, je garde ça dans le fond de mon cœur depuis des années. J'y pense tous les matins, mais j'en parle pas. Eh bien, Robin, c'est que je ne devrais pas être ici aujourd'hui. J'aurais dû être morte le 17 juin 1940.
Na 21. jsem měla telefon, že nás obsazuje armáda. Což jsme považovali za něco, že to vůbec není možné. To byl takový šok.
How do you feel about what's happened here in Prague?
We hope that we will have again the freedom and our democracy.
J'avais 11 ans quand la guerre a commencé et 12 quand les soldats sont arrivés. Il y en avait partout. Je descends mes démarches avec mon compotier, j'arrive dans le jardin, ta 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 ta. Maman était tuée sur moi pour me protéger. Vous savez, quand on a 12 ans qu'on soit là avec sa maman morte qui vous protège, on n'oublie pas.
În Timișoara s-a atras în tineret în fața catedralei.
Mijn vader is Auschwitz gestuurd en daar vermoord. En mijn moeder kon mij meegeven in de wetenschap dat ze misschien mij nooit meer terug zou zien. Ik had geen ooms en tantes, dat vond ik wel raar. Ik had ook geen grootouders. Iedereen had grootouders. Ik had niemand.
Non si deve mai dare per scontato la democrazia, ma bisogna sempre sostenerla e proteggerla.
To 17. listopadu, kdy všechno začalo. Byla veliká demonstrace studentů. Policisté napadli demonstranty, zmlátili je. To byl ten moment, kdy začala ta revoluce, takzvaná.
Pēc neatkarības atgūšanas Latvija bija brīva zeme. Cilvēki varēja brīvi izteikt savas domas par demokrātiju.
Ma col muro di Berlino, secondo me, l'emancipazione di tutta l'Europa.
Lieve Suzanne, lieve Suus.
Jsem ráda, že jsi takový, jaký jsi, a za to tě mám moc ráda.
Je weet, ik ben geboren in een jaar dat de wereld in brand stond. Zoiets bepaalt voor een groot deel je leven. Gelukkig ben jij geboren in een tijd van vrede en welvaart.
Pořád si uvědomovat, že ta svoboda a demokracie tady nebyla vždycky. A že o ní můžeme strašně rychle přijít.
Bisogna lottarla per ottenerla. Bisogna sempre stare vigili e lottare.
Si je peux laisser un message avant de partir, vivez la démocratie. Entendez-vous les uns des autres.
Passt gut auf die Demokratie auf, wenn ich nicht mehr bin.
Je to na mě a je to na nás, na naší generaci. V Evropě.
We've identified 5 candidates, and they're...
Yeah, very impressive video, and I think the situation is not too far from us when going to the Baltic countries, to Poland or to Romania. I will go tomorrow to Bucharest. My name is Helmut von Glasenapp, and thanks for the warm welcome, and I will try to guide us all through the next 1.5 to 2 hours to get an impression about as many topics as possible of European policy, to have hopefully a good expression of burning topics from the candidates. Why would you like to be a member of the European Parliament, a decision maker representing 440 million citizens in Europe? And I would like to include the audience, both here in the room and online, as far as possible. As I said, my name is Helmut von Glasenapp, and in my other life, I'm the Secretary General of the European Long-Term Investors Association, so I'm dealing with promotional financing, but this is not the topic of this evening. I have 3 connecting points with this event, because what you will decide the next years will affect me, will have an impact on my life. And so I think the elections and the knowledge what candidates would like to do, how they argue, what they have in mind, that's something which is very important for me, and I suppose looking here on the participants, the same for you. The second point is our 4 children have attended also the European School in Notoglou, and I'm very convinced about the system as it was pointed out before. I think that's a very good education. It's not only the language skills, it's first of all, I think, the cultural skills which students in European school make experience with. The third point was mentioned as well. My colleague Alexander brought me in touch with his alumni association, and I have the great pleasure to moderate a second time a debate of candidates ahead of the European elections. A few housekeeping rules before we start. I made the proposal that we have first round about 30 minutes that all the 7 candidates we have here tonight can really say these are the 2-3 very important points. As you are probably aware, the European Parliament, the European Union is dealing with a lot of topics, 360 degrees. And but I think each individual, each member of the European Parliament has really some burning questions and some burning issues, and we would like to learn about this first of all. Then we have a short debate between the candidates, commenting on what they have heard from the other candidates, making comments, questions, whatever. And then we will have the first round for the audience, both here in the room and online, to raise questions from what you've heard so far. We will continue with questions we received before. So we grouped them for the moment in 4 different blocks. And the candidates have the opportunity to comment on these questions. And then again, I hope we have sufficient time that the audience can raise additional questions, raise questions you didn't send beforehand, but you would like to be discussed this evening as well. We agreed that candidates can express him or herself in English, in French, or in German. However, there is no translation. So if you speak to students from European schools, you can assume that that they understand all the languages, at least these 3 ones. Yeah, I leave it to you to make the choice, and you can also look for a mixture of languages, which is the situation here in Brussels all the time, that we are mixing languages. I was very happy to hear from the Deputy Secretary General of the European Schools Secretariat that the Secretary General is on a mission. In British English, a mission is something totally different, but that's Brussels. For those who are in the room the first time, that's something which is very usual. I'm sitting next to the Greek delegation and the Croatian delegation here. We have the Commission on this side, so that's, and I see here Hungary, Luxembourg, Latvia. So this is the setting we have, bringing together different nationalities, that what was discussed in the video won't happen again, so that people speak to each other. And that's the same in the European Parliament. all 27 EU member states are represented with a specific number of members of parliament. And that's something we should be aware of. That's a big machinery of bringing together the opinions of 440 million people to one decision. And that's sometimes very challenging. I made the proposal to the candidates that in the first round, when they present their topics, that you have 3 minutes each, that you can present yourself. Later on, you will have only 1 minute. The two members of the European Parliament already are very familiar with this 1 minute, and you love it because yeah, if you think about it's more than 700 members of parliament, and if everybody would speak half an hour, then it wouldn't work. So this 1 minute exercise is something which is also for you interesting to learn, to see whether the candidates are capable to express themselves in 1 minute. They have to do it in Parliament all day long. That's something. And so it's my task, first of all, to really keep the time discipline so that all the 7 candidates have more or less the same amount of time to speak about, and so I will be very, very strict in this, and I suppose all of us know this nice signal here from our phones. We hear it every morning, and I will remind you when your time is over that you hand over to the next candidate. So now, without further delay, I would like to call you in alphabetical order of your second name. So that's, I think, hopefully neutral enough, not giving preference to any political group, that you tell us, explain us what are the 2-3 most burning questions, issues you would like to deal with, you would like to change in the European system. And the first one would be Lars Patrick Berg from the European Conservative and Reformist group. Please, Mr. Berg.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, everybody, to this fantastic event. I'm very pleased and very happy to see a lot of young people. Why am I saying this? Because I'm 58 years probably old. So thank you very much for attending. My name is Lars Patrick Berg, 58 years old. I am a member of the political group of the European Conservatives and Reformers and coming from Germany. I was a member of a parliament in Germany before I was elected to the European Parliament in 2019 in the federal state of Baden-Württemberg for 3.5 years. And prior to that, I spent many years in larger corporations in the field of sales and media and public relations. So why am I in politics? I was always interested in politics. I studied history after I graduated from a Catholic boarding school in Germany, and I have a legacy, if I may say. My mother is British, my father is German, and I had 2 grandfathers, and each of them were engaged as soldiers in World War II. Unfortunately, they never met. So they told me a lot of stories, interesting stories, but also very sad stories. And that was, for me, a impetus or that triggered my interest in politics even more. So I focus on 2 fields, that is foreign policy and security and defense policy. I'm a member of the German Armed Reserve Forces, and I was traveling extensively within this mandate since 2019 as a member of the Foreign Policy Committee and the Security and Defense Committee. I think, to be in a nutshell, and I will refrain from political statements, in a nutshell, I think everything is at stake currently due to the fact that Russia is raging a whole-scale war in Ukraine, that there is a regime, a government in the People's Republic of China that is very robust and very aggressively pursuing their national interests. So we have to keep together, we have to be very clear that we spend budget and allocate money into the field of security and defense. I think this is very important. Another issue is migration and, of course, climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next one, Ariane Giranesa, but please correct me if the pronunciation is not correct. She's not? There was a change? So, okay, then Laura Hidalgo.
I'm going to speak in French, it will be easier to talk with you. Donc, je m'appelle Laura Hidalgo, j'ai 29 ans, je suis candidate à l'Europe, donc 4e au niveau du mouvement réformateur. On est dans le groupe Renew Europe. Alors, pourquoi je me suis engagée en politique? Parce qu'en fait, j'ai étudié avec Célina, qui est juste ici à ma gauche, en même temps à l'école européenne d'Ucle. Et en fait, quand j'ai quitté l'école européenne, j'hésitais entre faire le droit ou Sciences Po. Et en fait, j'ai décidé de faire droit parce que ça a toujours été dans mon caractère. J'ai été déléguée de classe à l'école chaque année. J'espère que ça existe encore à l'école européenne, ceci. Et j'avais été aussi surveillante de bus. Donc, j'ai toujours été un peu impliquée dans tout ça à l'école. Et en fait, j'ai fait droit. Et les premières semaines, ce qu'on apprend en droit, c'est il y a un peu la pyramide. Ça veut dire qu'on a le droit national, puis en fait, on a le droit européen au-dessus, et puis le droit international. Et à ce moment-là, dans l'auditoire, j'entendais beaucoup de jeunes de mon âge critiquer le projet européen. Et venant quand même de l'école européenne, ça m'a un peu remonté l'esprit, et je me suis dit, mais en fait, c'est super le projet européen, je viens de ça, j'ai eu la chance d'étudier à l'école européenne, j'ai fini avec presque 5 langues. Et en fait, c'est devenu comme ça, c'est devenu ma base de mon militantisme que de défendre le projet européen. Et c'est comme ça que je suis devenue membre de Stand Up for Europe. Et on avait créé un cercle avec un ami dans mon université, à l'université Saint-Louis de Bruxelles. Et à côté, j'étais aussi membre du Salle étudiants libéraux, parce qu'en fait, ça j'ai oublié de le dire, mais à l'école européenne, quand on avait 16 ans, on avait le choix aussi de faire des petits cours à côté, histoire de l'art ou autre chose. Moi, j'avais pris Sciences Po. Et j'ai eu la chance, en fait, d'avoir des cours de Sciences Po à côté. Et donc, ça m'a éveillée aussi sur tout ce qui est la politique. Et bon, en ce moment-là, il y avait le débat entre Nicolas Sarkozy et François Hollande. Et on sait très bien que la politique française est bien plus passionnante que la politique belge. Et donc, du coup, je suis devenue membre du Cercle des étudiants libéraux. J'ai monté et première femme, présidente de la Fédération des étudiants libéraux, comme on la connaît ici en Belgique depuis au moins plus de 30 ans. Et actuellement, ça va faire 3 ans que je suis présidente des Jeunes MR, donc des libéraux côté francophone, donc militante depuis, on va dire, ma jeunesse. Ça va faire quand même bientôt 9 ans que je milite. À 23 ans, j'ai été aussi aux élections européennes. En fait, ce que je veux surtout dans mon combat, c'est de montrer que le projet européen est positif et ça n'est pas simplement la bubble qu'on représente parfois, même si on fait partie, et même si moi j'en fais partie d'une certaine manière, parce on reste des privilégiés malgré tout, et il faut aussi s'en rendre compte, mais il faut aussi promouvoir ce qui est positif auprès de la jeunesse, parce que malheureusement, et en tout cas je peux parler du côté francophone, il n'y a aucun cours, il n'y a rien en fait qui donne envie aux jeunes de s'intéresser au projet européen, rien du tout. Actuellement, ils vont voter pour le projet à 16 ans, et il n'y a rien pour les mobiliser. Alors c'est très bien. C'est très bien d'abaisser l'âge moyen, mais s'il n'y a rien derrière, qu'est-ce que vont faire les jeunes? Ils vont juste regarder les réseaux sociaux et vont rester un petit peu dans les clichés sans vraiment une réelle connaissance des compétences. Après, bon, il est vrai que quand on parle avec des personnes plus âgées, je ne vais pas dire qu'ils ont plus de connaissances sur le projet européen, mais il y a quand même aussi beaucoup d'eurosceptiques ou de gens qui sont... Voilà, c'est un niveau très méconnu. Donc moi, mon militantisme, c'est vraiment de changer cette vision-là. Et alors, on a 3 priorités. Enfin, moi, en tout cas, j'ai 3 priorités. C'est tout ce qui est digitalisation et au niveau de l'énergie. Voilà.
So, thank you very much. Now, and the next one will be Sophie Intveld. You are a member of the parliament already, so you are within 3 minutes exactly.
I'll do my best, but what you have also learned as an MEP is once you have the microphone, it's very difficult to, but no, I think I can be relatively brief. We were just watching the video, all of us, and I think every one of us was moved. Well, I was, and I know that many people who've been watching it online have been very touched by it, and I think everybody understands the magnitude of what's at stake. And yet, even if we understand that, when we go back to daily life and daily politics, we risk walking right back into the same trap. And I think, as my colleague also just said, we are living in very, very troubling times where I think the risk of sleepwalking back into the same trap is huge. And that is actually why I'm in politics, I'm in European politics, why I have been, not just as an MEP for 20 years, but also in other jobs involved in European politics for 30 years. And when people ask me the question, why do you want that? It's a question I don't even understand. When you have the privilege to be in a situation where you can actually work on a European Union which is democratic, which is free, where people are safe, where we don't do this kind of, don't inflict this kind of atrocities on each other anymore, but we actually work together for a better future. I mean, how can you not want to be in that position? Okay, I understand, many people want to actually have a normal and quiet life, but for me, this is really an immense privilege. I also think that we underestimate the importance, or we talk down the importance of democratic institutions, not just at European level, but also at national level. I think it is time that we stop thrashing our democratic institutions. We should embrace parliamentary democracy, but we also have to make parliamentary democracy at European level a lot more robust and resilient against attacks not from the outside, but from the inside. And this is why, for me, the rule of law, democracy and fundamental rights have been a leading topic for the last 20 years. And I hope that I will have another 5 years to fight for that. And then finally, I think a parliament needs a good balance between, let's say, turnover, renewal, but also having the necessary experience and institutional memory. And to be honest, I think in 2019 that was missing. The balance was lost. It has weakened the European Parliament. So I hope that the turnover is going to remain limited in the next elections, and that we will have a good balance. And I hope that with all the experience that I have, that I can continue building the European project and make sure that the images that we have seen in the video will never, ever happen again on this continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Perhaps very short, did I understand it right, that you now changing the political party or group or whatever? Can you give us an idea, two sentences, what is behind this and what is the reason?
Yeah, Okay, I always do my best to confuse everybody. Okay, to start with the simple one, I'm still in the same political group, even though I have changed parties. I have been a member of the Dutch D66 party for over 30 years. It was a very difficult decision to leave that party, because a party becomes your family, your home, your everything, and I was breathing D66, but I felt that there were a number of reasons, but I felt that the party leadership did not sufficiently prioritize Europe over petty national politics at a time where Europe should have priority over pretty much everything else. I then joined Volt. Volt is a relatively new party. It's a pan-European party. It turns out to be actually even more fun than I had expected, to be a member of a real pan-European community. It's a very young party. We actually have, we also have a couple of your alumni amongst our members, and even our candidates, and even a board member who was also one of your board members, if I understand correctly. And I think, in conclusion, with what we've just seen, and also the reasons why I want to be part of this European project, why I want to build Europe, is also the reason why I have joined Volt, and why I also believe that a party like Volt, a pan-European party, has huge potential. And we're beginning to feel that. If you look at the Google statistics, it turns out that it's not the classic parties that are most searched these days, but it's actually Volt, with something like 60 or 70%. So we basically have the future.
Thank you very much for this explanation. Now, the candidate from the Greens, which I was not informed about. Sorry for this, but I see that you are starting with an M.
Yes, thank you for having me today. I'm really pleased to be here tonight. I see so many familiar faces and new faces as well. I was a EEB1 student, UCLE, so representing UCLE. I see fellows, schoolmates as well in the panel. And as you see, we grew, and we have really different political ideas, but we respect each other. And I think that's the prime example of Europe and the European student movement and the European schools. We can develop freedom of minds and see multiculturality all around. I'm a product of multiculturality. I'm Italian and Congolese, but I've been in Belgium for almost all my life. I proudly know more than 5 languages, and that's also thanks to the European school system. And that pushed me in my love for Europe. I'm now a MEP candidate for Ecolo. I would have never dreamt to be here, but I think the European school really ingrained me for the love of Europe and the understanding of it, which is not often clear enough, especially in Belgium, as I see now campaigning. People are aware on the 9th of June about the national elections, but less so at the European election. And as a young person and a person in Belgium, it's also my right to inform and to represent also youth. And diversity as well in languages, in culture, and in everything, really, at the example of Europe united in diversity. I prioritize many things. Human rights. We see we're really at the pivotal point right now. It is primordial to vote. We saw the result of not voting with Brexit, with young people not voting for Brexit, and it is really, really important to maintain, democracy everywhere. And defending and respecting democracy and the rule of law and fundamental freedom. That's where the main focus of the European Union when it was created, and it is really important to continue towards that. It's also important to have a due diligence act among Europe and be sustainable as well. Be environmentally friendly in Europe, and environment is in every category and aspect of our life. Everywhere in the system, not because environment damages can cause floods, fires, and so many detrimental effects on our world. So we prone a minority-friendly Europe, diversity, environment, and fundamental freedom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have Cheltan Schutti. I hope it's a good pronunciation, from the Belgian CHAR, which belongs to the European People's Party group.
Yes, correct. My name is Chelsea Nshuti. It's a rather difficult name. I would like to thank you for this invitation, because I am not familiar with this organization. I know the schools, but myself, I've never engaged in this bubble. I'm 24 years old, almost not even half your age, but I'm still a student myself at KU Leuven. I am in my Master's International Politics. I'm currently finishing in my last year, so also writing my thesis. So like I'm also campaigning, so studying feels a bit like a side job right now sometimes. But I'm a candidate for the European elections, as you said already, for CD&V in Belgium. And I'm the youngest candidate on the European list, and that was a main reason for it. Our Belgium system has like the mindset of sending only rather old people to Europe, like people at the end of their careers, but they forget young people. And this year was a special year. Like 16 years old, I had the right to vote for the European elections. And what better way to engage myself in politics, European politics. When I campaign, I focus on the first voters, because we are with 23 million first voters in the whole of Europe, only the first voters. So it's not even the other young people. But during my campaign, I often see that young people don't have the tools to get involved in European politics. And I try to go to schools and teach them about it and like learn them the basics of it. Because I remember when I graduated from high school, I was 18 and it was also elections. It was the first time that I could vote, but I've never heard anything about politics in school. But now they are 16 and they have to vote for the European level, and they've never even heard of the European Union. They know the name, but they don't know what it means. And for me, it's very important that we bring those values to the young people at an early age. And for me, the two points that are very important for young people and for myself as well, it's climate change. As the European Union, we need to be bold on that. We are already pioneers, a pioneer continent, but it needs to be more bold. And the second point is European foreign policy. The European Union is facing a lot of challenges at its borders. But also outside of that, the European Union has a sphere of influence. It doesn't always like to admit to it, but we have it. And it's better to use it on a positive way, to use our mindset of democracy, human rights, to influence that sphere. Thank you very much.
With this, over to Nathalie van Veldhoven from the S&D Group.
Good morning. Normally, I'm the last one in the row if it's on the last name, but not today, apparently. Good evening. My name is Nathalie van Veldhoven. I'm 29 years old. It's my first time that I'm a candidate for any elections, really. and I'm running for the Socialist Party, Flemish Socialist Party. And the reason why I'm running, because a lot of people ask me, why are you so crazy to go into politics and do it for the socialists, is often the second question they ask me. But it's because I got into politics through the Young Socialists, a bit like Laura as well, but then through the Young Liberals. And it's because socialists have in their DNA solidarity, cooperation, internationality, and that's what I feel like is also what Europe is built on. The second thing maybe I would like to tell you about myself is I currently work at the European Parliament for our MEP, our only MEP, Kathleen van Bremt. But it's rather has been a strange path to get there because I studied sinology, so studied Chinese, Chinese language, culture, and I lived in China for a couple of years. And there's two things that I realized when I was living in China. It's first that European identity is a real thing. Once you're so far away from Europe, you kind of realize it. You realize that it's often about, do you cook with butter or with oil? I'm on the butter side, I'm sorry. Or do you eat at 5 o'clock at night, or do you eat at 10 o'clock? I'm ridiculizing it a little bit, but it's basically what you learn there. The second thing that I learned in China is that there's a lot at stake, and that we have, and it's quite a luxury to live in Europe, actually. You have freedom of speech still. You have democracy, a lot of the things that have already been touched upon tonight. And it's worth fighting for. And that's why I'm also running for a European Parliament, because I think it's the only level, or at least the most important level, where we can actually change that, where we also have a proper answer to a lot of the challenges that we are faced with. So that's why I'm choosing for Europe and for the European elections. I love the European project, but once you love something, you're also very critical about it, I think. And a lot of challenges have been touched upon already, but I would like to go maybe a bit more deeper already. And I would like to propose the #1 challenge that I think Europe is confronting about, and if I would be elected, or my party is at least trying to change something about that in the next couple of years, it's industrial policy. Why am I saying that? Not because I'm such a fan of industrial policy, not at all actually, but it's because it's about jobs, it's about our future wealth, it's about competitiveness with the rest of the world, and I think we are losing right now a lot of our competitiveness. I'm going to give you one example. I told you I lived in China for a couple of years. In 2015, I lived in China. At that time, you saw electric scooters everywhere. I mean, traffic is crazy in China. If you think Brussels is crazy, China is much worse. But it's full electric. Back then, even in 2015, all scooters were electric. What was happening in Europe at the same time in 2015? Dieselgate. And that's the contrast that I would try to point out. I think I'm going close to my 3 minutes, is that we have been sleeping, we have been a little bit lazy on investing in our industries and investing in our competitiveness. And now China is there. They have a lot of advancements that we don't have. So I hope the European Union will continue to invest. We started already with the Green Deal Industrial Act. We have a great start, but I think we should go forward that way. Start investing in our own industry, in our own production, and not be dependent on China for production, or Bangladesh or Vietnam, not be dependent on Africa for our raw materials, but believe in our own strength.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Michael Verbouwede from the left group.
Thank you. Je vais aussi parler en français parce que je suis un pur produit de l'enseignement francophone en Belgique, où le niveau de langue n'est pas incroyable. Donc même si j'ai un nom néerlandophone, je suis bien francophone. Je suis pour le PTB, Parti du Travail de Belgique, et mon parti fait partie de Left. Alors je m'appelle Michael, j'ai 38 ans et bon, je suis engagé en politique depuis mes études. C'est vrai que comme d'autres candidats l'ont dit ici, moi, ce qui m'a motivé, c'est vraiment les inégalités dans l'enseignement, en fait. Donc, c'est vraiment au moment des études où je me suis rendu compte, ben voilà, j'ai la chance d'avoir des parents qui ont pu me payer des études universitaires, d'avoir une ouverture sur le monde. Et je voyais que beaucoup de gens de mon village d'origine, qui venaient de milieux plus précaires, n'avaient pas cette chance-là. Et donc moi, les inégalités dans l'enseignement et globalement les inégalités dans la société en général, c'est quelque chose qui me tient fort à cœur. Et là, je suis papa de deux petites filles de 2 et 6 ans qui sont ici à l'école juste à côté à Saint-Josse, qui est la commune la plus pauvre de Belgique, dans une école communale où dans certaines classes, il n'y a pas de lumière. Donc, il n'y a vraiment pas de lumière. Donc, quand je dis le professeur appuie sur l'interrupteur, il n'y a pas de lumière qui s'allume. Il n'y a pas de connexion Internet dans certains locaux, etc. Donc, je vois vraiment à quel point il y a des efforts énormes à faire pour l'enseignement. Je vois ça pour mes enfants, mais aussi pour tous les enfants de cette commune. Et quand je pense à mes enfants, je pense aussi à l'avenir. Je pense, on a parlé de défis climatiques, on a parlé de guerre, on a parlé de défis sociaux aussi, d'inégalités. Et donc c'est ça qui me motive en fait à continuer mon combat, à me dire ok, il faut s'investir en politique et se dire voilà, on peut pas laisser le monde s'écrouler. Alors, je pense qu'il y a 2 éléments importants qui, moi, me tiennent à cœur, qui sont liés aussi à ce que je disais juste avant. D'abord, c'est la question des investissements publics. Donc, je parlais de l'exemple de mes enfants, hein, dans la classe où il n'y a pas de lumière. Donc, de ce que je vois partout en Belgique, et je pense que c'est la même chose dans d'autres pays en Europe, il y a un manque d'investissement public dans beaucoup de secteurs. L'éducation, ça en est un. Il suffit de prendre le train en Belgique, on est sûr d'avoir des retards. Et donc je pense que ça, c'est quelque chose d'important et qui vient aussi du niveau européen. Et pourquoi je dis ça, c'est parce qu'il y a eu récemment le retour du pacte de stabilité et de croissance avec les règles d'austérité qui avaient été mis en pause pendant le Covid et qui maintenant sont remises à l'agenda. Moi, je pense que c'est quelque chose qu'il faut vraiment remettre en cause, ce retour à l'austérité. Pas parce qu'on pense que la dette doit exploser et qu'il faut dépenser sans compter, mais parce qu'il y a des investissements qui sont importants pour les services publics, comme je viens de le dire, mais aussi, ça c'est le deuxième point qui me motive, c'est la question climatique. Quand on regarde par exemple, si on appliquait aujourd'hui donc une étude de la New Economic Foundation qui a montré que si on respectait le cadre strict budgétaire avec le pacte de stabilité et de croissance, il y a seulement 4 pays dans toute l'Union européenne qui seraient capables de faire les investissements nécessaires pour respecter les accords de Paris, de limiter le réchauffement climatique à maximum 1,5 degré. Et donc on voit que si on veut investir dans les services publics d'une part, et si on veut d'autre part investir dans l'investissement nécessaire pour la transition verte, qui doit aussi être solidaire, je pense qu'un des points qui moi me tient à cœur et tient à mon groupe, c'est de dire voilà, en fait il faut revenir et remettre en cause cette austérité 2.0 qui je pense qu'il va être un enjeu dans les prochaines années, et la prochaine Commission européenne sera certainement un enjeu très important pour la prochaine Commission européenne. Voilà.
Thank you very much. This gives us a first impression about the candidates and perhaps even beyond the individuals, about the groups and the parties you are campaigning for. Are there any comments or questions from the candidates from what we've heard so far? You would like to add something to what you've heard? Now this would be the moment, or should we go immediately to the audience? That's I see nodding for the audience all over the place. We will do this later on. To be honest, I think we should be a bit more outspoken and on controversial topics as well, so that the participants can realize what is really the difference between the different candidates and the parties. So I'm looking around here in the room, whether you have questions. Make sure that you open your mic when you do, so that the online... can hear you as well. Okay, so I see here one.
Hello. Yes. Hello, and thank you to the candidates. The question is about social media in democracy. So we talk a lot about democracy and how important it is for Europe, but then social media was a positive force, and we have disinformation, we have mental health issues with young people, we have all these controversial aspects to social media. So how do you think European Union should approach social media, and how should it regulate it, and what kind of role can it have in democracy? Thank you.
So if you don't address it to any specific candidate, everybody is...
It's free game.
First of all, I totally agree that it has quite a negative impact on the most side, even though you reach a lot of people, which is a good thing. I think the way it's not very much controlled. A lot of fake news there. Also, when I'm looking at the video that we just watched is a very good video, but it's quite unique because most of the times I'm following mostly the European Parliament's communications. It's not very appealing to young people. So I think there's a lot of gains that we can have there. The second thing that my party also is advocating for is to control the advertising on social media by political parties, because they use a lot of tax money, at least in Belgium it's the case, to actually, and it goes straight to Facebook and of the Meta, I don't know all the names, but you know what I mean. And I think there should be some rules. It should not be banned, maybe, but at least there should be some rules, some framework to at least when they do it, that there is like a ceiling on it, a cap. But also the content for advertising should be a little bit more monitored. Not to say that they cannot use social media, but you can also use it without advertising it as much as is being happened right now. So, short answer.
Yes?
Well, first, in response to your question, I think in particular in the past year, the European Union already has taken steps. We have the Digital Services Act, you know, there are a couple of acts on AI, on data protection. But it's, of course, you know, you'll have to be very cautious and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because if we say that we have to act as a kind of gatekeeper, let's say, and determine what people will see and what they will not see, I mean, you know, it's a slippery slope, because particularly in times where there is a tendency towards authoritarianism, I think we have to be very, very careful. So I think in addition to the measures that have been taken, we have to invest a lot in, let's say, you know, training people to have a critical mind, to look at issues with a critical. Because look, fake news is nothing new. Fake news is as old as mankind. What is new is that we now have this platform to amplify it. That's the big difficulty. At the same time, I think social media have also proven to be a force for good. They can facilitate democracy movements. So I would say let's regulate, but be careful in what we do. The second, I was triggered a little bit by what you said, because political parties in Belgium, established political parties, get obscene amounts of money, and they spend obscene amounts of money on social media, and they had every opportunity in the world over the last couple of years to change that. Even a couple of weeks ago, there was a proposal in Parliament, and all the political parties failed to do so. So I hope that not just, you know, next time, not just after the elections, it will be changed, but before.
Okay, Mr. Berg.
Yes. Would you like to?
No, you can go.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's a very fine line between freedom of speech and controlling social media. I was advised to use TikTok during election campaign. I was very hesitant. I didn't want to have a TikTok account, and I have it on a very separate electronic device, because if I'm not mistaken, in Parliament it is not possible to download the TikTok app on official whatever, computer or whatever. So it is a very helpful tool, TikTok, to address young people. Sophie just went into detail. I just want to give you some more general information. So it is for good and for bad. And now I am using it, TikTok, but it is also a fine line in not, how do you say, becoming like a clown at a certain age on TikTok and being a serious politician. Just some general information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to add something on Sophie's remark. Not all party in Belgium uses the social media budget only for advertising. My party was the last party the party that uses the least amount of money to advertise. So it's not all parties, but you are right that we couldn't find an agreement on changing this law because it's something dangerous for young people. And the most important thing that the European Union has to do is be ahead of these problems, because I feel like the European Union, the Parliament, is always lagging behind. We're always making legislations for things that already went wrong, and with everything is happening so fast. But for example, with AI, with deepfake, with fake news now, we know that it's coming, and it's best to be ahead of the problems than always like making new legislations for ongoing problems.
So please, and then...
Thank you. So I think we're really scared of TikTok, but Facebook has been an influence as well in democracy and on the spreading of fake news. And what we haven't talked about is the monitoring of hate speeches and so on. I think social media relies strongly on emotions. So what the algorithm pushes are strong emotions, joy, hate, and so on. And I think the European institutions should regulate emotive and negative speeches. I think far-right parties succeed that really much on social media. They are really, really there, and they are really dangerous because young people and 16 years old people are now following those speeches and hate speeches, which can influence greatly democracy and votes. So I think we should monitor all of that to maintain democracy.
Okay, here.
Yes, I just have to leave, but I will answer your question. So, to be not on, on social media, because I understand to criticize that parties are putting money on social media, but because if we are not there, we will let extremists to say anything, and that's the most dangerous thing that we could do, is to not be there on TikTok, on Instagram, and etc. Because when you ask to the people, the press, less and less people are reading the press, and even the young people. It's very dangerous. And secondly, the television. Sometimes when we are in the European debate, I ask to people, do you look the TV? And they say me no, they don't have. They look about the iPhone and etc. And they don't have the mind of criticism. I understand what my colleague said, that we are going, every time the Europe is going after, so for example, for TikTok and etc. But we have to be proud too as European, because we do things, we regulate, maybe it will be after, but we do it. And that's something that I'm very proud as European, because if you see in China or even in the United States, they don't have this, they don't have regulation. And that's the balance between, is to have regulation, but not too much, because there is the freedom of speech. So that's our vision as the Renew Europe. But I understand the criticize about the social media, and that we have to be aware as European. Yeah. And sorry, I have to leave. I have another event.
Okay. So, yes, please.
I'm not sure US have no regulation. They're going to ban TikTok. So Non, la première chose, je pense, c'est vrai que c'est les nouvelles technologies et les réseaux sociaux sont vraiment... il y a un côté positif et un côté négatif. Il y a beaucoup de nouvelles choses qui se passent. Moi, je travaille beaucoup sur la vidéo maintenant. Il y a des choses incroyables qui se font sur YouTube, sur TikTok, etc. Mais c'est vrai qu'il y a le pendant négatif qui est tout ce qui est hate speech, désinformation, etc. Moi, je pense qu'il faut avoir... tout ce qui est incite à la haine raciale, etc., doit être banni. Il n'y a aucune discussion là-dessus. Ça, c'est un premier axe de travail, je pense. Deuxièmement, c'est important, je trouve, de travailler à l'éducation, que les gens puissent comprendre. Moi-même, j'ai étudié l'histoire, donc la critique des sources, c'est quelque chose qui est très important pour moi. Et je pense qu'on peut faire beaucoup de debunk avec beaucoup d'éducation. Et troisièmement, je pense aussi que beaucoup de gens, on disait tout à l'heure que beaucoup de gens ne regardent plus la télévision ou ne lisent plus la presse, mais il faut se rendre compte que beaucoup de groupes de médias, et y compris les médias de service public, laissent très peu de place aux voix émergentes. Donc les partis qui ne sont pas déjà installés ont très peu de place dans les médias traditionnels, ce qui évidemment fait en sorte qu'il ne reste que les médias sociaux pour s'informer, d'une part, et pour s'exprimer, pardon, d'une part, et d'autre part, ça veut dire aussi que beaucoup de gens se disent « mais ce que je vois à la télé, ça ne correspond pas à ce que je vis, il n'y a personne qui me représente qui est là ». Et donc je pense qu'il y a aussi besoin d'avoir plus d'ouverture dans les médias traditionnels, par exemple en période électorale, que chaque parti ait accès, pas chaque parti, les partis qui sont, allez, on peut mettre des critères, mais que les candidats soient répartis de façon plus équitablement dans les médias, et accès aux médias de façon plus équitable, ce qui, à mon avis, réduirait aussi le poids des réseaux sociaux, notamment dans la désinformation.
Thank you very much. One more question now, and then we go to the questions which were sent beforehand. So now I have the difficulty. We have the first row, so let's go over here.
Thank you very much for giving me the mic. I'm Giorgio Clarotti, UCLA 1981, so which makes me older than all candidates. And I was an MEP candidate in 1989, so I was a very young candidate in elections in a transnational party. Question for me is on something which has really come to change the Europe I have been trying to build for 60 years. And it's only Mr. Berg has mentioned it, and it's the war on Ukraine. It's really what I consider to be an existential issue, because equality between people with PTB is advocating, none if Russia invades. Ecology, none if Russia invades. Individual rights, you've mentioned, Sophie, none if Russia invades. Liberal free market, none if Russia invades. I would like to know what is the position on your party on a specific point, which was mentioned by Mr. Macron, is that we should be ready in Europe even to send soldiers to help the Ukrainians in case the war turns on the bad side. What would be the position of your parties? I know the position of sending weapons, but what is the position if really we had to take a stand with respect to Ukraine? Thank you.
Yeah, please give short answers to this interesting question and very relevant question. Who would like to start? Mr. Berg.
Very tough question. I think my party, which is a very young conservative party, Bündnis Deutschland, Alliance Germany, has no position on this issue. I think it is very good to coordinate much better in the field of defense, to allocate more money to national armies and to the European defense system, to support Ukraine financially. Sending troops to Ukraine would probably be a different level of escalation. That's my personal view. Nevertheless, what to do, this is a question, I can't answer your question, but another question from myself, and then I'll finalize. What to do if Vladimir Putin decides to cross more red lines, not with military, but to with espionage, with destabilizing Baltic countries, Romania, or Poland. So I can't give you an answer on that. Sorry for that. It's a very tough, very difficult question.
I think right now in Belgium we have the big debate on the NATO threshold and whether we should amplify our, contributions, expenses. We think we should do our share in the NATO, but we should also be more independent of the USA, especially with Trump possibly being elected again. So yes, we're also for more European integration also on the defense part, for sure. But I want to maybe quote, I read it, I think 2 weeks ago, it was the head of the Ukrainian intelligence service, and he said, the Russian-Ukraine conflict or war will not be settled on the battlefield. It will be settled on the diplomacy table. And I think these kind of questions, should we send soldiers? No. If we don't have to, we should not. Because if we do that, I think that's when we will wake up in an actual different world where we don't know where it ends. So I think we should keep on emphasizing diplomacy and our efforts there. I think that's where Europe is good at. That's where Europe should put its focus on, and that's where Europe should help Ukraine as well. Ukraine, but also Gaza in the Israel conflict. Second of all, we already have implemented a lot of economic sanctions to Russia. I think that's also a different kind of way to approach conflicts, and I think it's a much smarter, much safer approach. And in that way, I think Europe has been taking the right path, but sending soldiers, no.
Mrs. van Infeld.
Yes, thank you. I mean, this is not a question where you say, yes, let's send soldiers, or no, never. I think, first of all, we need to realize there are already many people on the ground there. Not actually on the battlefield, but there are a lot of people there. We are not just sending weapons, but we are actively already helping with intelligence training and what have you. We've also, for a long time, had troops, on the borders of NATO. So it's not as if we're talking about something completely new. But of course, in this case, it might be that people, that our soldiers are going to be involved in, they're going to be on the battlefield. For the time being, this is not for the European Union to decide. It's for the national member states to do so. But I think I don't always agree with Emmanuel Macron, but I think it's a good thing that he raised the issue, because I think it is one that we have to face. Because I have to say, diplomacy and Putin in one sentence don't work. Sanctions, to be honest, and I've dealt with it a little bit, the sanctions are a joke, a sad joke. They're not enough, they're not being implemented, they're being evaded. I mean, in some areas, trade has actually gone up with Russia. Oil, yeah. So if the sanctions were effective, then the war would already have ended. It's also clear that, we're not going to negotiate a deal, not with Putin. Maybe there will be something, I mean, obviously, at some point you will have to negotiate, but you're not going to negotiate in a situation where a foreign power is occupying your country, killing your people, abducting your children, raping your women, destroying your economy. And if we are serious, because we always have these beautiful words about, oh, we're squarely behind Ukraine, they are fighting our battles, they are defending European values, but then we say, okay, guys, we send you weapons, please fight our battle. So I do think that it's not a decision that will be taken lightly, but I think it was right for Macron to put it on the table and to discuss it, so that if the time comes, that we will be ready to take that decision.
Thank you. So we were long talking about a federalist Europe, but we also should think about a federalism between countries for defense. We should be harmonized and working with each other and not building a defense mechanism each on their own separately. And we should also develop and be more independent from NATO. But all respecting inclusivity, empowerment, and foreign policy and environmentalist policies. That's primordial to be a strong and united Europe. And it can also be a catalyst for global change and external policy, and we must lead example as a nation and as a continent in the defense realm, and be independent from a lot of military powers, such as America.
Yeah.
Yeah, very short to add. My political group believes that we need like a European Union, European Defense Union alongside NATO, which we have, which is already like ready to send troops if it's needed. And the party has like a proposal to do so with a fund, a kind of fund for military interventions. Where the member states could like invest money when on the national level they are not happy to send their own troops. So with this fund you could like invest money so that like the fund sends troops or arms whenever they feel like needed to. But currently it's hard because like the 27 member states, they have different armies, different materials, they're like skilled differently. It's on a short time, it's difficult to have like a European army, as you can say it like that. But on a long shot, I don't know what my party thinks of it, but on a short notice, it's the fund for us.
Thank you. Mr. Verbavrede, you raise your hand, and then very brief, Mr. Back again, and then we will move on to the next question. So, please.
Non, la première chose à dire, c'est que ce que la Russie fait en Ukraine, c'est absolument horrible. C'est immoral, illégal au regard du droit international. La guerre, les atrocités qui sont commises là-bas sont absolument horribles. La question qu'il faut se poser maintenant, c'est comment est-ce qu'on va arrêter cette boucherie. Et là, je pense quand on regarde l'histoire, les guerres se terminent soit par la destruction totale d'un des deux belligérants, d'une des deux parties, soit à la table de la paix, de la négociation pour aboutir à une solution négociée. Je pense que ce qui a été fait ces dernières années, depuis le début de la guerre, c'était envoyer des armes, et ça n'a pas été de tenter la voie diplomatique, sauf à un moment, au tout début de la guerre. Donc il y a un article dans Foreign Affairs qui est sorti il y a un mois maintenant, qui en fait dévoile toutes les négociations qu'il y avait et qui ont eu lieu pendant presque 3 mois entre l'Ukraine et la Russie, qui ont été finalement qui ont capoté, mais l'accord a été assez loin. Et c'est intéressant de revoir cette partie-là contre ceux qui disent qu'en fait c'est impossible de négocier avec Poutine. Dans ces discussions, dans ces projets de traités de paix qui étaient sur la table, les lignes rouges de chaque parti étaient assez clairement indiquées. Donc moi et mon parti, on ne pense pas que c'est via envoyer des troupes au sol qu'on va résoudre le conflit. On pense au contraire qu'il faut aboutir à une solution négociée dans le cadre un peu des esprits de négociation de Helsinki, je pense, dans les années 70, 60-70. Où c'était une optique de sécurité collective, donc c'est l'OSCE qui était créé à ce moment-là. Et donc ça, on pense que c'est la voie qu'il faut tenter maintenant, parce qu'on n'a pas envie de lancer une guerre nucléaire avec un fou comme Poutine.
Thank you. Very brief, Mr. Berg. I have the hand of Ms. van Intveld, and finally, very brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me be very brief and very frank. Many member states of the European Union have neglected funding their armies or putting money into defense for various reasons, political reasons, financial reasons, whatever. So now we are going through rough times. And we have to be honest to ourselves. The European Union is a dwarf in regards to military. That's why we are dependent on the US. That is a fact. You like it or you don't like it, but that is a fact. And the US might turn elsewhere, shift their focus towards Asia, towards China very soon, and we have to be able to defend our values, our way of life, our freedom, and our Europe, our democracy. And this is a fundamental discussion we have to have in the member states. Are we willing, or are governments willing, to spend more money to ramp up their military? I'm not advocating for war, but to defend our values.
Ms. van Intveld?
Well, I have to say, this is one of the biggest differences between me and the PVDA, because quite frankly, diplomacy and negotiations are nice words, and peace. You know, everybody likes diplomacy and peace and negotiations. But when you look at what it actually means, it means you're asking Ukraine to capitulate to Russia. Yes, because there is absolutely no negotiation with Putin that's going to make him pull out of Ukraine, even the pre-2014 situation. Let's not forget that when it comes to sorry, let me finish. When it comes to agreements, you can trust Putin to break the agreements, okay? Ukraine was persuaded to abandon their nuclear arms in return for respect of its sovereignty. What did Putin do? Not respect its sovereignty. On the other hand, you can trust Putin when he says that he wants to restore the old empire and that he wants countries like the Baltics, Poland, etc. back. Trust me, he's already done cyber attacks on Estonia. You're asking for capitulation. That is not peace. That is submission of people who have been denied their right to sovereignty.
2 sentences and an answer from Mr. Verbaurede. Then we close the defense topic and move on to other topics. So please, 2 sentences.
Non, mais je pense que l'article que j'ai mentionné dans Foreign Affairs montre qu'il y avait un brouillon de traité de paix avec Poutine, avec la Russie. Donc,
sur
voilà.
quel territoire?
Non, mais allez lire, il était prêt à sortir même de la Crimée. Il était prêt à sortir de la Crimée. Mais allez lire, je vous envoie, donnez-moi votre adresse mail, je vous envoie l'article de Foreign Affairs, où c'est marqué clairement qu'il est prêt à sortir de la Crimée et même à accepter que l'Ukraine fasse partie de l'Union européenne. La condition qui est mentionnée, c'est l'appartenance à l'OTAN et que ce soit inscrit dans la Constitution. C'est une condition, c'est une ligne rouge. Non, allez, je vous invite à aller le voir. Non, est-ce qu'on pense qu'envoyer encore plus d'armes et envoyer encore des troupes au sol va résoudre quoi que ce soit? Quel est votre objectif sinon? Quel est votre objectif?
Self-defense.
Yeah, sending troops in Ukraine is not self-defense, I think.
Obviously, different positions, which is, I think, good to learn for the voters. So, finally, Mrs. van Veldhoven, and then we close the defense topic, which is important, for sure.
Quick remark, sorry. We started this video today, and I think the main message was never again. And then I hear a lot of these people saying, yeah, maybe we should send soldiers. That means that we will also get the conflict that's now happening in Russia and in Ukraine, which I think we should support Ukraine in the best ways possible. But sending soldiers, I think it's too far, because that means that we are also putting freedom here at risk as well, democracy here, because if there's one thing that does not exist in time of war, it's democracy.
But one thing, sorry, When in the 30s, where we were underestimating the risk, when we were trying to appease the enemy, when we I'm not going to use any German. I think we're making a mistake if we think that we can, just wish for peace and it's going to be there. Because what you just said, I don't believe that for 1 second that Putin is going to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's gave us a good idea about the different positions, which is very useful for the voters. So now I would like to turn to questions we received already in writing beforehand. And in round number 1, I would like to point on how to convince citizens, young citizens, but all citizens, to go to vote, because the participation in European elections were not overwhelming the past decades. And in addition to this, we received a question about all the scandals in the European Parliament in the current period, which is probably nothing to convince people that this is a reliable institution, and might affect the number of voters. So this time I go in the reverse order, and I would like to start with Mr. Verba-Wede to give us a 1-minute impression about these questions.
Ok. Non, je pense que c'est une bonne chose qu'au niveau européen, on puisse voter à partir de 16 ans. C'est une mesure qu'on préconise pour tous les niveaux de pouvoir avec notre parti. C'est une bonne chose, mais c'est évidemment pas suffisant, parce que je ne pense pas, et nous ne pensons pas, que la vie démocratique, c'est aller voter une fois tous les 5 ou 6 ans. C'est pas ça qui est suffisant. Donc c'est nécessaire, absolument nécessaire, et donc il faut absolument le développer. Mais on pense aussi qu'il y a d'autres outils de démocratie directe qui doivent être mis en place pour pouvoir intéresser les gens, et notamment les jeunes, aux questions politiques. Je pense par exemple au référendum, je pense aux initiatives citoyennes contraignantes, parce que maintenant il y a une initiative citoyenne au niveau européen, mais elle n'est que consultative, elle n'est pas contraignante. Donc nous, on pense que c'est des outils comme ça qu'on doit développer pour pouvoir donner la vie, donner l'envie plutôt aux jeunes, mais aussi aux moins jeunes, de se mêler du débat politique.
Thank you. Mrs. van Veldhoven.
In Belgium, we have a bit of the malchance that we have the 3 elections at the same time as well. We have federal, regional, and European elections. It means that the European elections, we don't get a lot of airplay in the press because they don't understand it. I don't know why, or they don't find it interesting. And it's a big problem. So it's disinterest from the press, in Belgium at least. I don't know how it is in your home countries. But also from national parliaments. For example, we now have the Belgian presidency of the council. And in preparation of that, we had a lot of committees in national and regional parliaments. And there were, on average, 3 MPs there. So it shows how little interest there is at the national level, but also in the media. And I think that's also a big part of why people are not interested, don't know Europe. And I think there's a lot of room to get better there as well.
Thank you. Ms. Nshuti.
Thank you. I would actually like to disagree with the statement because in 2019, do you think that the turnout was higher or lower than in 2014? Who thinks it was lower? It was actually higher, and it was almost 10% higher than in 2014. And there was the highest turnout since in 1994. And I think this is really important to know. People are getting more interested in the European level, and the turnout was that high actually because of young people. There has been studies done, and it turned out that the turnout was high because of people of the age lower than 25. And now in Belgium, people from 16 years old can go vote, and I really believe that the turnout will even be higher than last time. So I would love to speak more positively about the European level instead of speaking as a second level election. So please, let's all do it, all the candidates here.
Thank you. Mrs. van Intveld, you have probably also a bit of an insight of the earthquake with its scandal, the big scandal in the European Parliament. Nobody commented in depth on this, but I think that was a question of high relevance.
Yes, well, I think you have to distinguish between Qatargate, which was a criminal case, which wasn't the case. I mean, there is a bit of, you know, people are throwing everything together, you know, between intransparent lobby activity and people criminally dragging around trolleys filled with cash. I mean, it's not exactly the same. Steps have been taken. I think it is healthy. I mean, we have in recent days also seen some media reports about the inappropriate use of Parliament funds, and I'm happy that each time it leads to steps, but a lot more needs to be done, and it's also a matter of maturity for the European Parliament. And I have myself, since day one, always had my accounts, which are transparent, which are checked by an accountant, etc. But coming to the other question of turnout and young people in particular, I think Chelsea is right. Last time the turnout went up, mainly due to young people voting, which is a good thing. But of course, we can never lean back and be satisfied. But I also think that it's not a matter of sort of, you know, offering entertainment to people. I think we also have to make it very clear how important and how precious democracy is, and how people in other parts of the world are craving democracy. And we are asking ourselves, well, should we vote or should we not vote? Of course we should vote. You know, this is our democratic right. It has been acquired. People have been fighting for it. So, of course, we're going to use it.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you. So it's really important to go vote, and my party is really, the Green Party is really happy that we can do, at least in Belgium, from 16 years old. Democracy is a right for everyone. Everyone deserves to be involved in it. There are currently 705 MEPs, and you can vote directly to them. And what we do not realize is that 70% of the laws voted at the European Parliament will then influence national laws, and that's enormous. So to be involved in all of that procedures is a chance, and we should not take it for granted, but we should go into it with information. So mainly at youth, since it's new, voting from 16 years old, we should be doing more processes. I am particularly familiar with those processes. I wrote some article for the EPC from 18 years old, and that grew my love for Europe. And I feel we should do more projects involving youth. Why should I vote? Why should I care? And so on and so forth, to make them involved and wanting to go vote.
Thank you. And Mr. Berg?
The Qatargate scandal certainly did a lot of harm to the reputation and credibility of the European Parliament. There's 705 members currently, and it's human beings. So what I want to say is, in every organization you have people who aren't fit for the job. Unfortunately, you can only tell after they have committed a crime that they weren't fit for the job. Nevertheless, I think it's very important to ramp up the regulations, for instance, to get more clarity on additional income of members, additional income they receive from various posts that are non-parliamentary. Secondly, I think would be very important to get a grip on lobbyists that are registered, but that are really walking around everywhere in Parliament, knocking at doors, nobody controls them, and trying to manipulate members and their staff. I think this is something the Parliament really needs to get a grip on, because it's constantly happening. Thank you.
The second question is also a very fundamental one because it touches on the organization or the future of Europe and the conference on the future of Europe and the relation between Parliament, Council, and reforms to the treaties, things like this. What are your ideas to the reform of the European Union? And we should bear in mind that if the candidate countries, or at least some of the candidate countries, will join the European Union, the system wouldn't work as it is working for the moment, if you say it's working for the moment. So this time we start with Mr. Berg and then the other way around as I...
Thank you. I would like to focus on the countries Ukraine, Moldavia, Georgia, and the Western Balkan countries. I just came back last week from an electoral observation mission in North Macedonia. Last year I was in Albania, and I think we need to take a bold move, a bold decision to give the people hope, especially the young people in these countries they want to be part of the European family. They want to belong to the European Union, and they've been waiting for 20 years, especially the Western Balkan countries, Montenegro, Kosovo, Albania, North Macedonia, etc. So this is something I think is really relevant, very important, that we reach out to these countries and give them a time frame for accession and not postponing this issue anymore. Same doesn't really go for Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia, because there are other issues with these countries that have to be taken into account. It might take 10 years, maybe 5 years, 20 years, you don't know, but I think now we really have to go for the Western Balkans to stabilize Europe and to give the people hope and accept them as part of the European family. Thank you.
And you will do it with 30 plus commissioners.
No, that's a good point. I think then the European treaties need to be taken under scrutiny. That every new member state has the right to have a commissioner, I think wouldn't work. No, certainly not.
Mrs. van Intveld.
Yeah, to start with the last point, we actually don't need treaty change for that, because the treaties already say that we're going to reduce the number of commissioners. The only obstacle to that is called European Council, national government leaders. And I'm not going to elaborate on this, but I think the single biggest obstacle to development of the European Union is called European Council and government leaders. Who wants to know more about this will find a little publication on my website. But I entirely agree with you that the enlargement or the accession of the countries that you've mentioned is absolutely key. And quick accession. You cannot ask people to wait for another generation. This whole accession process has been thought up in the early 90s for the situation of the European Union back then. It doesn't work anymore today. And we see the results of keeping the countries in the Western Balkans on a leash. They're coming under the influence of Russia, of China. And there are other ways, there are other processes that we can follow to bring them in quickly without actually lowering the bar. It is entirely possible to do a staged accession. So you bring them on board, but you don't give them full voting rights, for example, until they have reached a certain level in a certain area. But this requires political vision and courage, which again is something which is, scarce in the European Council. But I think it is actually the only way forward, making the European Commission really independent, smaller, and really a supranational body which is working in the interest of the European Union and not acting as the secretariat of national government leaders. And I don't think, I also don't believe what the government leaders have said for a long time, that we first need to reform the European Union before we can enlarge the European Union, and then they refuse to reform the European Union so that we cannot enlarge. This is a silly game that we are going to pay a very high price for in the long term. So we need reform, and there's one ray of light. I mean, I would just love to see the first meeting of Mr. Zelensky in the European Council. Boy, is he going to shake things up. I mean, I think it would be a good thing.
Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Nshuti.
Thank you. This is, I think, is a topic we all agree on. Enlargement is very important for the European Union. We can't keep on fooling the countries and let them wait at the borders of the European Union, because it's not just about joining the club because it's a fun club. It's also about security. If the countries that are in the sphere of influence of Russia keep there and don't know what to do and are not invited to the European Union, what do you think they are going to do? They will fall into the hands of Russia, of other countries that don't belong in the European Union. So it must be higher on the agenda. It is on the agenda, but it must be higher on the agenda to not only deepening, but also widening the European Union.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you. So my party, the Green Party, we favor enlargement, but not at any price. We need compliances, political compliances, economical compliances, and accession criteria, which need to be respected. There are countries that are still waiting to be part of the European Union for more than 10 years, such as the Western Balkans, and we should support their accession and integration in the process. We should also start giving legislative power to the European Parliament and abolish the unanimity rule in the Council of the European Union, which is a big block right now, and we should really abolish that.
Thank you. Now, Mrs. van Veldhoven.
A lot has been said already, actually. But yeah, we are also quite on the same line as my colleagues here. Maybe what can I add is indeed countries like in the West Balkan, they're under influence of Turkey, of China, they're investing, building infrastructure there. And these are people that are actively wanting to join the EU, and I think the more EU, the better. So we should not play with the hope that we gave them. We should actually act on it. And like Sophie said, there are also middle steps that we can take. And I think that's a very good route to go by. But indeed, we should reform the Commission, the Council, to do so, because otherwise it will not be workable.
Yeah, and Mr. Verbouwede, sorry.
I'm used to it. Non, j'ai marre mon chrono. Non, nous, on n'est pas favorable à un élargissement de l'Union européenne à l'Ukraine ou aux pays du Balkan. D'abord parce que l'Ukraine est en guerre, c'est pas un petit détail, mais aussi parce qu'il y a des gros risques de dumping social. Donc le salaire minimal en Ukraine, par exemple, c'est 200 € par mois, donc il y a un risque de dumping social pour les travailleurs. Déjà aujourd'hui, il y a un fort dumping social au sein de l'Union européenne. Et ce qu'on pense aussi, c'est que notre vision de l'Europe, c'est une vision de l'Europe de la solidarité, où on aide à développer les régions les plus pauvres de l'Union européenne. Et là-dessus, il y a encore beaucoup de travail à faire au sein de l'Union européenne actuellement. Et on pense que c'est ça la priorité, donc plutôt de développer une Europe de la solidarité au sein des frontières qu'il y a déjà maintenant, plutôt que d'élargir à d'autres pays qui sont aussi en général assez pauvres. Et alors sur la réforme des traités européens, là je rejoins ce que d'autres ont dit et ce que j'ai dit plus tôt, c'est qu'on est évidemment en faveur d'une réforme des traités européens. Donner l'initiative législative au Parlement européen par exemple, c'est un aspect, mais aussi les aspects de démocratie directe, comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure dans ma précédente intervention.
Thank you very much. I'm looking now to the organizers. It's 8:30 now, and initially we said we would try to stop. We have 2 more blocks of questions, Could we have another 15 minutes?
If they're fit and willing, we start with a little bit of delay. So
I'm other commitments. So if we could, maybe one more question or something, but I really have to go at some point.
And if we have
perhaps we do it like this. Here, a question from students, or one question from students, and if there is time and power to answer more than we do. I'm looking around.
We actually have Ivan with us, who's representing COSUP. So Ivan, maybe you can very quickly explain COSUP and ask one of the questions.
I'm from EB4. I'm in my final year of studies here, and I'm also part of COSUP, so it's the Conseil Supérieur des Élèves. So we have the student council. Each school has a student council, student representatives, and COSUP really reunites these student councils at a higher level, and we have meetings with the OSG, with the Office of the Secretary General, with the Budgetary Committee, and with working groups. So I'm a representative there. But now I have a question directed at the participants here, and it's about climate change. And so it is clear that climate change is a very important topic now. I was watching the Maastricht debate just a few weeks ago, and there was enormous support for the Greens party, for Bas Eickhout, within the young people there at Maastricht. So it really showed how important climate change is. And a lot of you mentioned climate change, how important of a topic it is. But really, with the Green Deal, with the part of the nature restoration law, and all of that, it's really kind of hindering our commitment to climate change. So my question towards the EPP candidate, towards the ECR, towards the Greens candidate, how can the Union continue this narrative of climate-friendly policies, Green Deal, so forth, while at the same time we're having trouble implementing current solutions in place? Thank you.
So, should we start?
If I may. Oh, yeah, thank you, Ivan. We have seen these protests in Brussels here from the farmers, and not only in Brussels, in Spain, in France, and it's for a good reason. It means that something's wrong with the laws that we are making. If they don't work on an individual level, they don't work on a higher level either. So I'm happy that also the EPP group is seeing that and is willing to revise it and is willing to talk with the farmers and the individual groups that are involved in this to see how they can better it, but still working on climate change challenges. Because if these laws that they are making are not working, but also not doing anything for the climate change, they are not doing anything at all. It's still a challenge. We still need to work on it. But it's also important to see what's happening with the people on the ground, because they are the ones who are going to do it. It's not the people here sitting here in the commission. It's the people on the ground. And yeah, we need to give them a bigger voice in this as well.
Any further comments on this?
I tend to disagree, and I think it is very unfortunate that the EPP has caved in to pressure, and I have to say I'm all in favor of freedom of demonstration, but that does not involve vandalism, threats, intimidation and violence. Second thing I have to say, the farmer's voice, as you call it, has been very present at the table for 70 years. As a matter of fact, the Copa Cosega, the main farmers' lobby, has been the most influential lobby in the European Union. The problem is that Copa Coseca has not been honest to the farmers. They have been telling the farmers that they should grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, produce more and more and more, when everybody knew already since 1972, report of the Club of Rome, that that was unsustainable. And yes, there are now farmers who have invested and who now are in trouble. So I understand that they're angry. At the same time, just saying, okay, we're going to pretend that climate change doesn't exist, that we can sort of postpone measures for a couple of years. It's not even honest to the farmers. At least give them some clarity as to where we're going, so they know, what to invest in or when not to invest. So I actually think that what the EPP did was also undemocratic. That's my last word. Laws have been passed after an extensive, democratic, inclusive process. And then to say, oh, we've actually changed our minds. Remember the man on the moon moment, the Green Deal of Mrs. von der Leyen? What happened to the man on the moon? We changed our mind. So I think this is not fair to anybody, not fair to future generations, and not fair to the farmers.
Please.
Thank you for the well-thought question, and it's really important to tackle this subject indeed. Conservative decision makers have not been listening to science. We are currently in a climate crisis, and I should encourage all of you to check who votes for what's in the EU Parliament, because it's accessible, it's readable, and nobody can lie about the votes made. When we do not listen to progress and to science, we go to chaos. And the future is circular economy. We need to respect resources, and we can evolve with a circular economy and not always be at the hands of lobbyists and big industries that just try to make rule against climate change. So it's really important to evolve in all those lines for climate change, because climate change is everywhere. It's really everywhere. So that's my answer, and I hope you're satisfied. But read the votes and also listen to science.
Please.
Yeah, I'm also quite disappointed in the EPP on how they step back from decision. I think there's no other level of politics where there's as many eyes that go on a legislative text than is on the European level. Lobby groups, but I mean, I'm not going to explain the European procedures. I bet you guys know it better than I do. But you have the Commission, then you have the Parliament, the committees in the Parliament, and it goes back to trilogue, then the Council, blah, blah, blah. But once we got a deal, a Green Deal, we all voted for it. It's a long-term plan as well. It's 2050. And if we now, well, with intermediate steps, but if we're now going to go back to the table, it's just going to confuse industries. It's also going to confuse farmers. And I agree with what Ms. Intveld said. It's just not fair, the way that I think the EPP mostly has been lying to farmers, not being clear, not being honest, and that's why they are so mad. I understand that they are mad, but it's not they should not be mad at the European Union. They should be mad at their lobby groups and the EPP.
Thank you. We need to come to Mr. Berg, please.
Thank you. I'm not a scientist, but I believe that climate change is happening. And I think, I'm very convinced that Chelsea gave a response or has made a statement with a lot of common sense. And I don't want to primarily only focus on the farmers, but also on industry. We are dependent on jobs. We are dependent on prosperity. And that's why these measures within the Green Deal, for example, they have to be balanced. They have to be balanced. It's not about denying climate change, but they have to be balanced. And you have to convince people, you have to convince entrepreneurs that these regulations are to their that they are impacting them positively, that they can comply with them, that they are able to drive older cars and not have to abolish older cars within a certain time frame forever, that they can afford to be climate friendly. I think this is very important, and that's why I'm very happy that you gave a very common sense statement to be more political now. Thank you very much.
So, last contribution here. Mr. Verbaavede.
Non, je ne pense pas que c'est une question uniquement de balance, je pense que c'est une question aussi de social. C'est-à-dire que la transition climatique, elle est absolument nécessaire, mais elle doit absolument être sociale. Aujourd'hui, on a parlé des fermiers, mais plus largement, beaucoup de gens voient les mesures climatiques comme des taxes, des choses embêtantes, des interdictions, etc. Je n'ai un exemple concret. On parle beaucoup de taxes carbone ou d'augmenter le prix de l'essence, mais je connais un conducteur de train, il n'avait pas de voiture avant qu'il travaille au chemin de fer. Quand il a commencé à travailler au chemin de fer, il a dû acheter une voiture parce qu'il fait les premiers trains du matin et il n'y a pas de transport en commun la nuit. Donc si lui, on va lui dire, on va mettre une taxe carbone qui va augmenter ton budget pour pouvoir te déplacer, il va évidemment pas être d'accord. Donc je pense que, et c'est le problème aujourd'hui des politiques climatiques, c'est que trop souvent, on rejette la faute sur l'individu. C'est la faute de la personne, tu dois trier tes déchets, tu dois prendre une gourde et pas dans une bouteille en plastique, hein, et on pense qu'avec ça, on va résoudre les problèmes. Non, ce qu'il faut, c'est des investissements massifs dans l'énergie, dans le transport. Et pour ça, et là je pense que ça c'est une divergence fondamentale que nous on avait avec le Green Deal, c'est qu'on doit reprendre des secteurs économiques en main, collectivement. Hein, donc aujourd'hui, on inonde des multinationales de subsides. On pense que ces secteurs devraient plutôt être pris en main collectivement pour pouvoir faire une transition qui soit écologique et sociale en même temps.
Thank you very much. I think we will stop here. I have one interesting question regarding migration, but perhaps we can discuss bilaterally with those who are in the room. I would like to thank the candidates for your time and for your passion to make the European project better. But I would like to thank you as well that you be a candidate or a member of the European Parliament already, because we know it's a lot of time and very little private life which is left. And I think it is absolutely necessary that we have convinced individuals in the Parliament who dedicate their time, their know-how, their passion to the European project in the interest of all of us, of all citizens. I'm not sure that many people are really willing to have your job, because it's really challenging for this. Thank you very much for this. I would like to thank the European School Alumni Association for having organized this evening, and thanks for having asked me to moderate this evening. It was very interesting for me, and I wish you all the best for the elections between the 6th and the 9th of June this year. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, delegates. And of course, thank you very much, Helmut. A round of applause for our fantastic moderator. Thank you. Before we let you go, of course, as alumni, we're an association sans but lucratif. We do not take a political standpoint ourselves. Our objective is to facilitate the debate. So again, a warm thank you from us to our candidates at what I hope will be the first of many more debates to come. Our democracy is so rich, and debate really is so important. So thank you for showing that tonight. I myself am a British national who grew up in Brussels, and from one day to the next, my European citizenship was taken away from me. So please bear in mind everything you've heard tonight. Take nothing for granted. A few last thank yous from my side. A special thank you to Ornella Di Perri, the director of a.i.s.b.l, who has been very kind in helping us to organize the room to facilitate this great debate. A special thanks also to Katrin Hopman, who leads our communications team, who's done a fantastic job sharing ahead of time the profiles of all of the delegates. and in publicising the event. Final thank you to Thomas Fairhurst and Guy Janaway, the leads of the working group who have put all of this together and organised all of this. Special thanks to both of you. And finally, before we get to the drinks, let me not stand between any person and some drinks in the corner. We have one last message from an honorary alumni of ours. Some of you may have heard of her, and I look forward to speaking with you all at the back of the room. Thomas?
Alumni of European schools, we have something in common. We grew up sharing cultures, languages, and lifelong friendships across borders. For me, this has always been a unique privilege. A privilege that comes with an obligation to stand up for Europe. Let us all be ambassadors to make Europe thrive. Denn Europa ist das, was wir daraus machen. L'Europe, c'est notre avenir.